Chapter 16, Smiles and Sorrows, November 11th, 2007, 7:53 a.m. A virtual ballet of spectral light was floating and dancing over the walls, floor, and ceiling of the front foyer. Sue stood with a folded newspaper in her hand by the French doors of the first-floor living room, lost in the intricate choreography of the swinging rainbows. Ever since she had happened upon this phenomenon 3 weeks earlier, it had become her pre-work ritual every sunny morning. The streaks of light would blaze through the divinity in the circular leaded glass window and scatter upon contact with the swinging crystals of the pear-point chandelier. This morning's light was pouring at precisely the right angle. Rainbows were everywhere. Sue watched until they began to lose their vigor, then swiped the air with her newspaper. The prisms refreshed in a new spellbinding pattern. There was another noteworthy pleasure here as well. The circular stained glass window. While religion had never been a priority in Sue's life, this window was by far one of her favorite features of the house. There was something about it that was incredibly alluring to her. Just what? She could not say. All she knew was that it was filled with a power, the kind of power that a rock garden in the backyard possessed, but to a much higher degree. The kind of power that imparted joy and peace every time it was made the object of attention. It contained an image of Christ that without fail bathed her in total tranquility. With a sigh of reluctance, she watched the prism colors swing around the room until the chandelier came back to rest.
How, someone please tell me, did I come to own all of this? Unbelievable,
she whispered, stepping up the staircase to the second floor. Her rainbows in the special window had performed their magic in preparing her for the upcoming rigors of the day. She was eager to get at the dining room, where Lance had so aptly been dismantled with a sledgehammer. Upon strolling into the expanded room, she mentally scanned her wallpaper supplies that were spread across the foldable work table. Except for the paste, everything was set up and ready to go. She took the scissors and snipped the stitched top from the bag of powdered paste mix. As she was about to pour the dry ingredients into a bucket of water, the phone on the kitchen jack began to ring.
It's not even 8 yet. Who's this?
Placing her actions on hold, she sprinted to answer.
Hello?
Sue, it's Jake. His voice was excited and uncharacteristically hurried.
Is everything all right?
Couldn't be better. This may be short notice, but have you had any breakfast yet? The question caught her off guard.
Yes. Well, actually, I only had a bagel and orange juice. Why?
You still hungry?
He's going to take me out to breakfast?
Sue thought as a slight panic pinched her stomach. She looked down at her paint-spotted jeans and scolded herself for not having a spare outfit in reserve.
I guess a little, but I'm dressed like a slob in my work stuff.
That's fine. What are the chances of me getting you to come over for a bite?
When?
Well, now. Sue shook her head in disbelief.
Now? Sure. I'd be happy to join you.
Oh, and there's something that I think you'll want to see when you get here.
What is it?
A surprise. Try to come as soon as you can or you might miss it.
You're not playing fair,
Sue kidded. You'll know when you get here. I'll talk to you shortly. The phone line went dead as Jake hung up.
What on earth?
Her thoughts were temporarily muddled before she managed to get herself together.
Oh my God, he's making me breakfast.
With a zing of excitement, she ran through the kitchen into the bathroom like a young girl whose first date had just pulled up to the curb. A quick touch-up of her lipstick and a cursory brushing of her hair had her ready for the short-notice rendezvous. She threw on her jacket, gathered what she could of her nerve, and burst out the back door.
It'll probably be faster if I just cut through the woods.
Her speedy advance carried her across the backyard into the chute of Conestoga Way.
Why would he decide to make me breakfast like this?
She thought, with a spring-loaded jump over the stone wall onto Jake's property. She continued over the rise down to the stream, where the trail hugged the running water in a long curve to the left, before eventually crossing its flow via a sturdy bridge. Since she had seen Jake venture in that general direction on their first meeting, the assumption was that the trail would take her to the appropriate end. Her stride sped onward into the unknown. While most of the area on the other side of the stream was open grazing pasture, there were also large patches of plowed dirt roughly 50 yards off lining the edge of an east-to-west access road. Sue was entranced by the chopped 6-inch-high corn stalks that were still poking from the furrowed ground. They reminded her of the crosses in a military cemetery, symmetrically dispersed at one moment, then perfectly aligned the next. Upon clearing the span of the bridge, she observed that the grooved trail threaded into a thick grove of pine and maple trees. Her preceding clatter of kicked pebbles startled several huge crows from their desolate respite, causing them to swoop about the upper perches in a cawing annoyance. Although visual contact was not yet made, the air was beginning to carry a rich smell of manure and hay. She had to be getting close. The beaten path followed the terrain in a downward bend around a natural stockpile of fieldstones and emptied to a much flatter grade. She passed a cache of stacked firewood before finally striding into the clear. A wonderful montage of architecture, fences, and landscaping were in the distance, lying under a hang of mist. The focal point of the scene was an all-white farmhouse with a steeply pitched black roof. Its left-hand side was lengthened by a low-lying addition, while a long covered porch swept the face of the main structure. Off to the right, a newly constructed garage was fronted by Jake's pickup truck and an old beat-up Rambler. The contrast between the mirror finish of the black truck and the faded tan relic was almost absurd. Two galloping horses, one white and one chestnut, shot into view on an expansive stretch of land behind the garage. They thundered parallel to the white post and rail fence, which abutted the measure of the access road and continued in a wrap along the main street. Sue pulled her gaze from the unbridled animals to a stand of pines on the left side of the farmhouse. Though most of its depth was concealed, she could see the foremost parts of a bright red barn. Its walls were made of wide, vertically affixed boards. Hinged doors took up nearly the whole of the lower facade. One smaller hay hatch was tucked up high under the overhang of a rain hood. She could not help but compare the pointy jut with the beak of a giant bird. The gambrel roof was topped with a louvered cupola, which held a cast-iron weathercock. More white post and rail fence ribboned around the perimeter of the barn and the farmhouse. Sue's eyes blinked when the front left barn door swung open with a whack. Jake emerged in a rush, smiling from ear to ear. Oblivious to his audience, he whooped into the air and shuffled an endearing dance.
What's going on?
Sue called, leaning against the top rail of the surrounding fence. Sue, you're here! He came running over, unlatched the gate, and interlaced his fingers with hers. Come on, hurry, hurry! They stumbled across the yard to the open barn door. When Sue saw what was inside, her hands clapped over her mouth. Only a few stalls down, a wet black and white creature was wobbling and struggling to stand for the first time. The proud mother, Daisy, was providing cleansing licks to its glistening coat. Is this not a miracle? Jake asked.
It's...
Sue could not get her words past the well of emotion. I tried to call you in time, but Daisy was too quick.
I'm so glad I got to see this much. The calf is absolutely adorable.
Jake gave her arm a light tap. I'd like to introduce you to someone. In all of the commotion, Sue had failed to notice the silent black man who was sitting on a bench against the side wall. He was a dapper-looking old fellow, with a suit and tie and silver-rimmed spectacles. His head and face wore a tight crop of woolly white hair, which was a handsome complement to his deep coffee skin. Sue, I'd like you to meet Dr. Silas Jackson. He's been the family vet and friend for a whopping 26 years now. The doctor stood up on severely bowed legs. Hello, Sue. So very nice to meet you, he said, vigorously pumping her hand up and down. We don't have many females out this way, at least not the two-legged kind.
You don't say,
Sue said, intentionally keeping her eyes from the tall farmer. We just had quite an extraordinary thing happen here. Daisy just birthed her second.
Her second?
The doctor walked over to the weary cow and stroked her side. I delivered Tinker about 16 months back. He held a bent finger at Jake. You know, we ought to inseminate that heifer. She's reaching her time.
What time is that?
Sue asked innocently. The doctor smiled. We usually try to breed Holstein heifers around 15 months of age. They gestate like humans, about 9 months or so. That gives her plenty of time to fatten up before the birth. We've got to get Professor Peters' nose out of his books and make him pay more attention to his livestock. He looked back to Jake and asked, What about it? I'll get on it right away, Doc. You have my word. Good. Now about Daisy and her baby here. I'm going to make sure everything is A-OK. Then I'll weigh the little tyke. I'm guessing 95 to 100 pounds. Do you need my help anymore? Jake asked. Nope, everything looks real fine. If I want you for anything, I'll give you a holler. Okay, I'm just going to show Sue the gang. The doctor waved and watched as Jake and Sue wandered through the front door into the barnyard. Well, Jake's got a bounce in his step. About time. She's sure a pretty young lady. With approval grafted into a smile, he went back to his patient. Jake led his attractive neighbor to the nearest length of fence. Now that you've been given a crash course on animal husbandry, why don't we go meet the father of the calf?
You have a bull?
Let me put it to you this way. We've got the animal kingdom pretty much covered. Ready to meet the crew?
Sure.
Okay, but there's going to be a test when we're done, so pay attention. He started chuckling and guided her to the back of the farmhouse. During their walk toward a reinforced pen, they came upon an impressively feathered rooster who was busily scratching at the dirt. That's Roddy, a real piece of work. You'll probably hear him from your house one of these mornings after you move in. They paced forward to the fenced pen to view a monstrous bull whose nose was tethered to a tall steel pole.
Ouch, doesn't that hurt him?
Sue asked, peering at the pierced metal circle in the animal's snout. It's sensitive, all right, but it's also an effective way to keep such a tank in check. He's as ill-tempered as they get, so we tend to give him a really wide berth around here.
What's his name?
Titan.
I can see why.
I stud him out whenever I can. He's got quite the life. Jake cupped his hands and shouted, "Congratulations, my boy! You're a proud new papa!" With a great snort from his distended nostrils and a powerful scuff, the bull flaunted his prowess. Jake pointed over Titan's clipped horns at the background. "See the horses?"
Yes, I saw them before when I was coming up the trail.
"The chestnut mare is mine. Name's Jezebel.
Pretty.
She's a real flirt, that one." Without forewarning, a loud honk belted from behind them. An agitated goose was standing with his wings aflutter and his mouth gaped in a hiss. "Louie, stop that right this instant. This is Sue. We like when she comes to visit." Jake took a hard step forward, which sent a small puff of dust into Louie's bill. With a surprised honk, the attack goose retreated quickly in a skipping waddle. Don't mind him, he gets very protective of his territory. His honk is bigger than his bite. Glancing back over her shoulder, Sue asked,
Whose horse is the white one?
"Oh, that's Peppermint. She belongs to a young girl that I know from town. I have an arrangement with her where she gets to keep Peppermint here, but in exchange, she comes and brushes the horses every weekend."
Sounds like a fair deal to me.
"She actually came up with the terms," Jake added with a grin. He motioned toward one of the posts near the house. "And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the lord of the manor." Sue laughed when she saw who it was.
Hi, Nugget.
The orange cat nonchalantly gazed over at them, exhibited a wide bared yawn, and closed his eyes to contented slits.
Is that everybody?
Sue asked. "Not quite. Right this way." He led her around to the back of the barn, where there was a henhouse full of clucking chickens. Wispy feathers were floating in swirls all over the nearby ground. "I haven't given these gals names for reason I'll let you figure out." She could sense that a twinkle was growing in his eye. "Want to see something funny?"
Sure.
"Okay, we've got to go back into the barn." As they entered the front door, Jake indicated with a facial expression to wait for a moment. "How's it going, Doc? Everything under control?" "Yes, sirree. All under control. Are you done showing the lady around?" "Getting there. Hey, Doc, we're planning breakfast. Care to join us?" "No, thank you. You go have a nice time with your friend here. Aren't you hungry?" "No, sirree. I'll be finishing up with this fairly soon, then I'm off to see my sister. She'll have plenty for me to eat. Now both of you go and leave me be. If you change your mind, the offer still stands." With a quick flick of his fingers, the doctor prompted them to scram. "Come on, Sue. We're in the way here." He escorted her over to the far end of the barn, where they scaled a wooden ladder to the hayloft. "It's right over by this pile of baled hay," he explained, bending down and moving a cube to the side. Sitting in a loose pile of straw were 2 big brown eggs. "I've got a hen that tries to hide these from me."
She goes to great lengths.
"Not great enough, because I'm on to her. Are you up for some bacon and eggs?"
Sure.
"All right, let's get a few more from the coop and we'll be in business." After gathering up a half-dozen eggs in all, they made their way over to the low-lying addition on the house. Jake chivalrously opened the door to welcome Sue and Nugget into a spotless, roomy kitchen. A butcher-block island with an overhead selection of shiny copper pots and pans sat conveniently near the array of appliances. Every fixture looked to be new and oversized. Hardy Corian countertops covered extensive cabinet spaces and a dishwasher. "Please, make yourself comfortable while I play the chef. I don't know about you, but I'm famished." He continued over to a stainless steel double sink where he began to wash the warm eggs. Sue took a seat at a harvest table and crossed her legs, totally at ease. She could feel Nugget's strong body rubbing against her ankles.
You want some pats, huh, Nug? Oh, yes. You want some pats, don't you?
After receiving his allotted share, he stomped away to start on Jake's legs near the sink. He knows it's grub time.
I can see that.
When it comes to his eats, he's tenacious. I'd better feed him or we'll have no peace at all. As Jake went about opening a can of turkey and giblets, Sue thought she would open something of her own, a topic she had been eager to discuss since being out in the barn. "So, I heard Dr. Jackson call you Professor Peters. Do you teach somewhere?" Jake set the cat's dish down before turning to her. "As a matter of fact, I do. I'm a professor at UMass Dartmouth."
No way. What do you teach?
Evolutionary biology.
Wow, very intellectual.
You could say that.
Got a quick crash course for me?
Yeah, right. I'm sure you don't want me lecturing to you about a deuterostome phylum, which secondarily develops pentameral radial symmetry, or tetrapods evolving from Sarcopterygians, do you?
No, I mean, something else. Is it okay if I shoot a controversial question your way?
Jake smirked. Don't get me started.
What?
You want me to give you my take on creationism, right?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Everybody throws that one at me.
So, how do you stand?
Why do you ask?
I'm just curious, that's all.
You're not one of those Bible preachers, are you?
Me? Please.
Okay, just making sure. People can get pretty nutty.
I'm familiar with someone like that.
Aren't we all? Jake agreed.
And you know what gets me?
What? Sue pointed her finger in the air.
They always have all the answers.
So they do.
That's why you have to give me some pointers on how to argue pro-evolution. So the next time it comes up, I'll be ready.
Can do. They both smiled almost with relief before he continued. Anyone with half a brain can figure out that creationism is an unsupported theory. I mean, it certainly had its time and place, back when nomads roved the deserts. It was a way to describe the mysteries of this awesome universe. But that was before the knowledge and the scientific method revealed the actual sequencing of things. How can evolution be discredited when we have a detailed fossil record that shows us how organisms evolved and changed over time, millions of years worth of time? And we have many accurate methods of dating. There's a boatload of irrefutable evidence against the theory that God created this and that over 7 days a few thousand years ago. It's so out there that people can buy such a watered-down explanation to how all of this happened, when we have conclusive data to show otherwise. What scientists have uncovered is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me, God. Jake shifted uncomfortably with his last word. A 4-million-year-old skull from an Australopithecine hominid doesn't lie. Sure, there's gaps in the fossil record and missing links here and there, but come on, give it time, and we'll know the whole lineage to where we came from. Sure, humans are a vastly superior life form to anything on the planet, with an intellect and a conscience, and it seems a stretch to trace us back to single-celled building blocks and some primordial soup, but we're talking billions of years here. That's plenty of time for some pretty amazing combinations to occur. To say that humans were created from dirt by some whimsical act of God goes a little far for me. Even better, how about women? Are you going to tell me that a woman was created by removing one of Adam's ribs? Be real.
I'll second that.
How couldn't you? It's a given that at some point in the past we split from an ape that decided to walk upright. It's a given that we're improving with time, we're evolving. The proof is in the pudding. We started as some primitive bipedal form and progressed to stone tool makers, and now look at what we can do. We're the product of evolution, no doubt about it.
Well, I guess that answers that.
Jake assumed a bashful grin. I don't mean to get so worked up. It's just that this really sets me off. The creation people need to face the facts. They need to see the world around us as far more complicated than 7 days of toil, even if God himself did the work.
I'm just glad I'm not a creationism supporter.
Sue said jokingly. Me too.
What made you choose evolution in the first place?
That was a long time ago, like the early 90s, at UMass Amherst. I had this professor who taught evolutionary biology, Dr. Linda Carvenin. She had this knack for making the classes fascinating. For whatever reason, her style hit me just right because I went on to get my master's degree in organismic and evolutionary biology. It's been 17 years now. Turning away from the range, he asked, "What would you like on your toast?" Sue scanned the selection of toppings that he had placed on the counter.
I'll have butter and marmalade, please.
She took note of his skillful movements around the stove. In a couple of minutes, a tempting plate of sizzling bacon, over easy eggs, and a stack of toast, thick with her desired spreads, sat in front of her. "Don't wait for me, just dig in,"
Okay.
Sue said as she dipped the corner of a piece of toast into the runny yolk.
These are delicious.
"It makes a huge difference when they're fresh." With a glance around the room, she said,
Boy, this kitchen is really beautiful.
"Thank you. It was built for my mother a while back." Not realizing that she was treading into a sensitive area, she asked,
And where's your mom?
Jake carried his steaming cuisine to the other side of the table. "She's passed away." Sue placed her fork softly on the plate. "I'm sorry, Jake. I didn't mean—" "No, it's okay." He swung a hand through the air. "This farm was my mother's and father's, back when I was living in Dartmouth with my wife." Sue gulped at this last bit of information.
He's married.
She thought with a sinking hope. At the time, she was an elementary school teacher, 3rd grade. That's how I met Peppermint's owner. She was a student of Ann's. Everything was so good, that is until February 14th, 2002 rolled around, the day the bottom fell out of my life. He threw a look toward the ceiling, collecting himself.
You don't have to tell me anything if you don't want to.
No, Sue. It helps to talk about it, really. It's been 5 years now. Geez, you'd think the pain would go away. He pushed a congealed puck of yolk back and forth with his toast. See, my wife and parents were on their way up to a cabin we owned in Lewiston, Maine. It was a vacation break for the schools, but my schedule at the university kept me from leaving on the same day as them. I was supposed to drive up over the following weekend. As it turned out, that didn't happen. They never made it to the cabin. Sue reached across the table and placed a tentative hand on his.
Jake, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm fine with it now. But I'll tell you something. You can't imagine what a bomb it was to get that phone call from the New Hampshire Stadies, saying that they had found Ann, Mom, and Dad. According to the reports, their car had gone off I-95 and flipped into a snowbank. The troopers attributed it to icy roads. Imagine that. Ice. Sue could see the pain roiling just under the surface of his face. After that, I sold all I had and moved in here to take over the farm. Jake looked across the table into Sue's brimming eyes. Thanks for listening, he said, squeezing her hand lightly. He took a deep, ragged breath and picked up a piece of bacon. So, now you know my skeleton. What's your story? Sue welled with guilt for feeling self-pity at his question. Her experiences, as damaging as they had been, were nothing compared to what Jake had just shared. 3 of his dearest people had been taken from his life in one fell swoop, a tragedy she could never begin to understand. The prospect of revealing her sad tale seemed like a frivolous woe-is-me pitch for moral support. It made her feel selfish and weak in character, but simultaneously more compassionate to him.
Are you sure you want to go there?
She asked, hoping he would change his mind. Yeah, tell me your deepest, darkest secret.
This isn't my favorite thing to talk about, but...
A sadness pulled down over her eyes like drawn shades.
I'm divorced.
Really?
Yeah, about 8 months now. From Lance Hutton.
The mayor of New Bedford, Lance Hutton?
Yes.
I had no idea.
Well, it's true.
She searched him for any sign of waning interest or disappointment, but his exterior remained decidedly stolid.
Anyway, life with him, to put it lightly, was no picnic. I can honestly say that my personality took a good beating over the years.
How so?
He liked his control. I couldn't do anything I liked to do, and he manipulated me to do things I despised. Not only that, he did as he pleased behind my back.
Sue's eyes were watering, her voice wavering.
I'm not usually such a crybaby. I don't know what's the matter with me.
Jake handed her a napkin. It's all right, Sue.
Thank you.
So you got the divorce?
Yeah, you'd think that would have set me free, but it hasn't. Not really. My self-esteem and confidence are just...
More tears started to find their way down her smooth cheeks, but she staved them off with a determined huff.
No. Thank goodness I have some caring friends who've been there to help carry me through. My best friend Doreen, whom you met, and my mother, and then there's my son and daughter, who were probably the most important of all.
This opened Jake's eyes widely and tipped him to the edge of his chair. You have children?
Yes. Ryan's 19 in his first semester at the University of Florida, and my daughter Julia is a senior at Fairhaven High.
You don't say.
Uh-huh.
Can't wait to meet them.
Oh, you will. They mean the world to me. There are 2 others as well, Sassy and Scooter, my cats. You'll have to come see them once they move in.
Will do.
They're long hairs, unlike Nugget over here.
Nugget's a big fan of girls with fluff. This brought a smile to Sue's face.
He's going to have to love them from afar, because they're strictly house cats.
Oh well, Nug. Can't win 'em all. Sue sniffed and took a relaxing breath.
Jake, I didn't mean to spill my guts to you like that.
Please.
No, really.
It helps to just let it go every once in a while. Plus, you gave me a chance to learn a lot about who you are on the inside. I mean, how else would we ever really get to know each other if we clammed up about our pasts? So we started with the biggest chinks in the armor. But at least they're out of the way now, right?
I guess.
Jake wiped his lip with his napkin. What's important is that those things are in the past. Our focus now should be on what's ahead. You're right.
To be honest, these 8 months of freedom have been wonderful for me, letting me get back to my normal self.
That's how it should be. Life's too short to live it any other way. He smiled and tossed the last piece of toast into his mouth. What do you do for work, or should I assume that you've been a professional mom?
Good assumption about the mom part, but I also manage a living as a freelance artist / interior decorator and as a landlord.
No kidding. Jake gave a subtle gesture to a nearby doodle on a notepad. What kind of art do you do?
It varies. Some painting, some sculpting. The past few years I've gotten back into scrimshaw.
I love scrimshaw.
Me too. It's sort of an attempt on my part to keep old New England traditions alive.
Do you use plastic?
Most of it, yes. But I have a stash of legal whalebone that I've had for years and years.
Sue pushed away from the table.
Excuse me, Jake. Are you all through eating?
Yes, I couldn't eat another bite. As she reached to clear his empty plates and glasses, he intercepted her arm. No, you're my guest. Stay right where you are.
You did all the cooking. Now please let me at least do this part. I insist.
He could tell she was not going to back down. If you really want to. Sue gathered the yolk and marmalade-smeared plates and carried them to the sink. In the meantime, Jake took a dishcloth to the tabletop. A light rap on the kitchen window caused them to turn away from their chores to see Dr. Jackson's pleasant face looking in at them. He made an okay sign with his fingers before walking out of view. "Where's he going?" Jake asked while hustling to open the door. "Are you sure you don't want to join us, Doc?" "No, sirree. I must be on my way, but thank you kindly for the offer." He pointed at the barn. "Now you keep a close eye on Daisy and her newborn. Make sure to keep me posted over the next couple of days." "No problem, Doc. Thank you for the help." "My pleasure. Oh, and see to it that Tinker is pregnant the next time I come by." He gave a toothy grin before turning with his black medical bag by his side. Poking her head outside, Sue called,
"It was nice meeting you, Doctor."
"The pleasure was mine, and Jake's," he returned with a knowing wink. "You young people have a great day." In an attempt to take some of the sting out of this sly comment, Jake asked, "Hey, Doc, how close were you this time?" The vet stretched a glance over his shoulder and smiled. 98 1/4 pounds. "I still think you would have made a great weight guesser for the circus." "Maybe when I retire, but until then, I'll stick with what I already do." He chuckled his way over to the driveway and settled into his classic car. "He's quite a guy," Jake said as he slipped back into the kitchen.
"Seems to know his stuff. I like him."
Jake gave an emphatic nod. That man could treat a tree frog from the Amazon if he had to.
There aren't many people like that anymore.
"You can say that again. Dr. Jackson's been a savior to my family all these years." He directed a look at Sue. "I think it's time we get you out of the kitchen. Would you be interested in a reciprocating tour of my house?"
Is yours in the midst of being torn apart?
"Not quite. Come on, I'll show you." The tour roamed through a layout of perfectly tidy rooms that were painted with the same stark white as the outside. Strategic splashes of color came from throw rugs, curtains, antiques, prints, and furniture. Eventually, they walked into a quaint den which was fashioned with an old New England style. "Well, this brings us to the end of my viewable humble abode. There's a filthy cellar and attic, but those are going to remain unseen if you don't mind." His words barely registered. Sue's concentration was focused on a curio in the corner of the room.
"Where did you get all of those?"
she asked, gesturing to the formal display. "I made them." Sue moved close to admire the staggering collection of wooden figurines. Jake's mastery of the animal form was artfully exhibited on each glass shelf. There was a bull, a giraffe, an eagle, a grizzly bear, a horse, an elephant, and many other creatures of the world. Each figure was frozen in an animated pose of astounding detail.
"How did you make these?"
Jake pointed to his head, then held out his hands. "The only other things I need are a block of wood and a sharp whittling knife."
"These are as good as I've ever seen. I mean it."
"Thank you. It's just a little something which takes me away from the everyday stresses."
"Well, it could do more than that. Have you ever sold any?"
"Oh, no. I've only given them to my family and friends. I think because by the time I finish, I grow too attached to just sell them away to strangers."
"You might want to reconsider."
Jake lifted his shoulders. "Maybe someday,"
"I'm curious.
Sue said.
Who taught you how to do this?"
"Trial and error."
"Wow.
"Hey, when you got it, you got it."
Well, you've certainly got it all right."
Yeah. Jake shifted the spotlight to the nearby overstuffed chair. "Why don't we have a seat?" He went over and propped his feet on the corner of a lobster pot coffee table. Sue followed suit by settling into a matching couch across from him. The lord of the manor was not to be outdone, jumping up into her lap. Immediately he began preparing for his nap by kneading her middle.
"Not bad, Nugget. You're quite the masseur,"
she said, scratching under his chin. "Looks like my friend has taken to you."
"That's all right by me. I've certainly taken to him. Isn't that right, Nug?" "Yes. Good boy."
"So how's that house of yours coming along?" Sue's eyes lit at the question.
"Great. As a matter of fact, I was just getting ready to paper the dining room when you called."
"The bathroom isn't the only finished room now, I take it?" Sue nodded.
"I'm pretty much on schedule. Only 5 weeks before Ryan gets home."
"That'll be here in no time. By the way, may I get you some tea or anything?" His question caused her to check her watch.
"No thanks, Jake. I should really be heading back to work soon."
"Some other time, then."
"That'd be great."
She looked down at her orange and white companion who was draped comfortably on her leg.
"Aren't you all tuckered out?"
"Give him a push. He won't mind." Nugget resisted her prodding at first, determined to hold her hostage until his nap was complete, but soon the pushes became too much. With his tail tucked, he jumped stiffly to the floor.
"I hope he doesn't hold a grudge,"
Sue joked. "Oh, he'll get over it." She bent to tidy the pillow that had held her arm.
"Thank you so much for calling me over today."
My pleasure.
Now I've got a lot to think about while I'm wallpapering. It gets lonely working all day long in that empty house.
I'm glad you could come by. It gets pretty lonely over here, too. He accompanied her back to the kitchen where he turned to face his departing guest. She could tell that he was up to something.
What?
Sue, put out your hands and make a cup for me.
A cup?
Yes, I want to give you something,
Okay.
she said, extending her hands trustfully to him. He reached into his pocket and pulled a clenched fist back out. As he put his hand into her open palms, he said, I want you to have these. Sue looked up at him questioningly, her hands empty. I'll explain it to you someday, Jake assured before pushing the door open for her to pass.
You better, because now you've piqued my curiosity.
Don't worry, it's a good thing. Have a great day, Sue.
You too, and thanks again.
She turned away toward the vastness of the far woods. Jake watched until she blended with the trees, then closed the door and went out to the barn to check on the newest member of the family.